LET Review New Curriculum, Science Major, Part 1.1, 50 Actual LET Questions. This is JM Pedagogical Blog, Review. Disclaimer, no copyright infringement intended for educational purposes only. Direction, you may get a piece of paper and a pen to answer. A 10 to 20 seconds timer is allotted for each question. Make sure to answer all the questions honestly, and do not hesitate to finish this video, for you are the next licensed professional teacher. Okay, let's get started. In parasitism, the parasite benefits at the expense of the host, which can sometimes lead to the host's death. The larger hosts receive a cleaning service, having their ectoparasites removed, while the cleaner fish eats the ectoparasites and receives a resource in the form of food. The cleaner fish provide a service by removing parasites and dead skin from their hosts, while the hosts offer a resource in the form of food, the parasites, and protection for the cleaner fish. The symbiosis between corals and their photosynthetic zooxanthellae is obligate. The corals cannot survive for extended periods of time without the algae, as they cannot produce all the nutrients they need independently. Commensalism is symbiosis between two partners, where one gains from the interaction while the other is unaffected. This can be seen in animals that eat waste products of other animals, or that receive transport without hindering the movement of their host. Ribosomes are known as the protein factories of the cell because they are the sites where proteins are assembled from amino acids. In eukaryotic cells, ribosomes can be found floating freely in the cytoplasm or attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, forming the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The semipermeability of the cell membrane is important because it controls the kind of substances that enter and leave the cell. This selective permeability ensures that essential nutrients and ions can enter the cell, while waste products and harmful substances are kept out or expelled. This regulation is crucial for maintaining the cell's internal environment and overall homeostasis. Somatic cells are any cells forming the body of an organism, excluding the reproductive cells, thus are not involved in reproduction. In contrast, sperm cells, gametes, and egg cells are all types of reproductive cells. The property of water that is probably most important for the functioning of organisms at the molecular level is its versatility as a solvent. Water's ability to dissolve a wide range of substances allows it to facilitate various biochemical reactions and transport nutrients, waste products, and other molecules within organisms. Fruit growers often use sexual propagation methods because the offspring produced through this process can result in improved varieties compared to the parent plants. Sexual reproduction combines genetic material from two parent plants, leading to genetic diversity. This diversity can introduce new and potentially beneficial traits, such as enhanced disease resistance, higher yields, or better fruit quality. The main role of lymph is to defend the body against infections. The lymphatic system, which includes lymph, is essential for the immune system as it transports white blood cells and other immune cells throughout the body to combat infections. During cellular respiration, cells transform glucose, sugar, and oxygen into energy, carbon dioxide, and water. The primary outcome of this process is the production of adenosine triphosphate, which serves as the energy currency for various cellular functions. In mutualism, both organisms involved benefit from the relationship. In this example, the green alga provides the fungus with nutrients and water, while the fungus offers protection to the alga from the sun and high temperatures. Both organisms gain advantages from this interaction. Consuming soft drinks on an empty stomach can raise the acidity levels in your stomach. This is due to the high sugar and acid content in soft drinks, which can irritate the stomach lining and cause discomfort over time. This increased acidity can lead to digestive problems and even stomach pain or ulcers. While neutralizing sulfur oxides with basic compounds, reducing sulfur emissions from industrial establishments, and adding limestone to water basins are effective methods to address acid rain. Using absorbent colloidal materials to screen acid rain is the least practical and least commonly used solution. Adding another brick increases the normal force, the force perpendicular to the surface, which subsequently increases the frictional force. Since frictional force is directly proportional to the normal force, increasing the weight of the brick by adding another one will enhance the friction. When a simple pendulum is at its mean position, the lowest point in its swing, it possesses kinetic energy. This is because at the mean position, the pendulum's speed is at its maximum as it moves through the equilibrium point. Here's a brief rundown of the energy transformations in a simple pendulum. At the highest points of the swing, the extreme positions, the pendulum has maximum potential energy and minimum kinetic energy, while at the mean position, the potential energy is at its minimum and the kinetic energy is at its maximum. The key here is that light takes time to travel. We have to consider how the motion of the train affects the travel time of the light that signals the glance between the passengers. The west side passenger is moving towards the point where the light from the east side passenger is emitted. Since they are moving towards the light will reach them sooner than it would if they were stationary. While the east side passenger is moving towards the direction in which light would travel if the passenger on the west side glanced up, the light has to catch up with them, so it will take longer for the east side passenger to see the light from the west side passenger. In scattering, light rays are deflected in many different directions when they interact with particles or molecules within a material. This is different from refraction, which involves light bending as it passes through a new medium. Here are some examples of scattering. Rayleigh scattering. This occurs when light interacts with particles much smaller than its wavelength, such as air molecules. It's why the sky appears blue during the day and red at sunset. And mere scattering. This occurs with larger particles, like water droplets in clouds or fog, and it scatters light in all directions, creating a white or gray appearance. Here's a bit more detail. Typhoons occur in the western Pacific, like in East Asia, Southeast Asia. Hurricanes occur in the Atlantic Ocean, Northeast Pacific, and North Atlantic. Cyclones occur in the Indian Ocean and the South Pacific. This scenario illustrates how the use of DDT to kill mosquitoes led to a chain reaction in the ecosystem. Lizards that ate the poison mosquitoes were affected, which in turn impacted the population of cats that prey on the lizards. This demonstrates the interconnectedness of ecosystems and how changes to one part can ripple through and affect other populations. Light moves significantly faster than sound. Specifically, light travels at approximately 300,000 kilometers per second, whereas sound travels at about 343 meters per second in air at room temperature. When lightning occurs, the light from the flash is visible almost immediately, but the thunder takes longer to reach us due to the slower speed of sound. The time gap between seeing the lightning and hearing the thunder indicates how far away the lightning strike is. Conduction is the method by which heat energy moves through materials via direct contact. In this case, the heat from the hot coffee is transferred through the metal spoon to the other end, making it warm. Metals are excellent conductors of heat, which allows the heat to travel along the spoon, even though the exposed end isn't directly in contact with the coffee. The epiglottis is a flap-like structure made of cartilage located at the base of the tongue. During swallowing, it covers the opening to the trachea, windpipe, to prevent food and liquid from entering the airway, directing them instead into the esophagus. Echinoderms, such as sea stars and sea urchins, and cnidarians, such as jellyfish and corals, both exhibit radial symmetry, meaning their body parts are arranged around a central axis. This allows them to interact with their environment from all sides equally. Water is the most prevalent inorganic compound in protoplasm, which constitutes the living material within a cell. Protoplasm includes both the cytoplasm and the nucleoplasm, and it is composed of approximately 70 to 90% water. This water is vital for numerous cellular functions, such as preserving cell structure, transporting nutrients and waste, and enabling biochemical reactions. Both echinoderms, like starfish and sea urchins, and cnidarians, like jellyfish and corals, exhibit radial symmetry, meaning their body parts are arranged around a central axis and they can be divided into similar halves by multiple planes. In lichen, the relationship between the alga, or cyanobacterium, and the fungus is mutualistic. This means that both organisms benefit from the relationship. The alga, or cyanobacterium, conducts photosynthesis, providing food, sugars, to the fungus. Meanwhile, the fungus provides a protective structure for the alga, helping it retain water and offering a stable environment. Mars has a very thin atmosphere compared to Earth. The atmospheric pressure on the surface of Mars is about 610 pascals, which is roughly 1/100th of the average atmospheric pressure on Earth, about 101,325 pascals. This low pressure is a major factor in the harsh conditions on Mars, including its inability to support liquid water on the surface for long periods under normal conditions. In most mammals, the embryo develops within the mother in a specialized organ called the uterus. Mammals, including humans, have internal fertilization and viviparous reproduction, meaning that the offspring develop inside the mother's body and are born live, as opposed to laying eggs. Ants use pheromones as chemical signals to communicate with each other. When an ant finds a food source, it releases pheromones along the ground, marking a trail for other ants to follow. This helps the colony locate the food source. Pheromones are used for various purposes in the animal kingdom, including mating, warning of danger, and marking territory. In the context of graphing the distance covered and velocity of a car, the distance covered is typically considered the dependent variable because it changes in response to the velocity over time. In a line graph, the dependent variable, distance, is plotted on the y-axis, while the independent variable, time or velocity, is plotted on the x-axis. Acid-base balance refers to the equilibrium between the production and loss of hydrogen ions in the body. Maintaining this balance is crucial for normal bodily functions, as it ensures the blood's pH remains within a narrow, healthy range. Oxytocin plays a crucial role during childbirth by stimulating the contractions of the uterine muscles, which helps in the delivery of the baby. Additionally, it promotes the secretion of milk from the mammary glands, facilitating breastfeeding. According to Ohm's law, which states that V equals IR, where V is voltage, I is current, and R is resistance, if the resistance, R, increases while the voltage, V, remains constant, the current, I, will decrease. This is because the current is inversely proportional to the resistance. The movement of the lithospheric plates, also known as plate tectonics, is driven by the heat from the Earth's interior. This heat causes convection currents in the semi-fluid asthenosphere, the layer beneath the lithosphere, leading to the movement of the rigid lithospheric plates on the Earth's surface. In the famous Rutherford gold foil experiment, he concluded that atoms are mostly empty space, with a very small, dense nucleus at their center that contains most of the atom's mass and positive charge. This was a significant shift from the previous, plum pudding model of the atom, leading to the nuclear model of the atom. Plowing and tilling the soil disturb its structure, making it more vulnerable to erosion by wind and water. Additionally, the lack of vegetation cover after plowing leaves the soil exposed to the elements, further increasing the risk of erosion. Animals cannot directly use atmospheric nitrogen because it's inert and must be converted into a form they can use, such as ammonia, nitrates, or nitrites. They obtain nitrogen by consuming plants which have absorbed nitrogen compounds from the soil, or by eating other animals that contain nitrogen in their tissues. This organismal response to a given stimulus is called thigmonasty or seismonasty. Thigmonasty refers to the movement of plants in response to touch or mechanical stimulation. In the case of Mimosa pudica, its leaflets fold inward and droop when touched, as a defensive mechanism against potential harm. While it might seem logical to think that the venom of bees and ants comes from their salivary glands, it's actually produced in specialized structures known as convoluted glands. These glands are part of their venom apparatus, dedicated specifically to venom production and storage. Breathing is primarily regulated by the concentrations of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the blood, as well as the pH level, which is influenced by CO2 levels. Chemoreceptors in the brainstem and in the blood vessels detect these changes and send signals to the respiratory centers in the brain to adjust the rate and depth of breathing accordingly. Grasshoppers undergo incomplete metamorphosis, which includes 3 stages: egg, nymph, and adult. In this process, the nymph resembles a smaller version of the adult but gradually matures through several molts without entering a pupal stage. The cambium is a type of meristematic tissue that is responsible for secondary growth in the stems and roots of vascular plants. It consists of cells that divide actively to produce new tissues, leading to an increase in the thickness of stems and roots. Two organisms are considered to belong to the same species if they can interbreed and produce fertile offspring in a natural setting. This criterion ensures that genetic material is exchanged between individuals, maintaining the continuity of the species. Capillaries are the small, thin-walled blood vessels where the exchange of materials, such as oxygen, nutrients, carbon dioxide, and waste products, between the blood and other body tissues takes place. Their thin walls allow for efficient diffusion of these substances. If you catch a fish and eat it, you are a second-order consumer. In this context, the fish is a first-order consumer, herbivore. If it eats plants or algae, by eating the fish, you are at the next trophic level, making you a second-order consumer. The scenario described suggests an infection caused by a parasitic organism. The most likely cause is amoebic dysentery, which is caused by the parasite Entamoeba histolytica. This parasite can be found in contaminated water and food, and it can cause symptoms such as bloody diarrhea and liver problems, as described. Global warming leads to the increase in Earth's average temperature, causing polar ice caps and glacier to melt. This melting contributes to higher sea levels and can have significant impacts on ecosystems, weather patterns, and human communities. In a pressure cooker, the accumulated steam raises the pressure inside the pot. This increased pressure raises the boiling point of the liquid, allowing the food to cook at a higher temperature and therefore faster than it would under normal atmospheric pressure. Catalysts work by providing an alternative reaction pathway with a lower activation energy, thereby increasing the rate of the reaction without being consumed in the process. They remain unchanged at the end of the reaction and can be used repeatedly. How many correct answers did you get from this review? You may share it on the comment box. I hope you got a passing score of 38 or above. Good luck LPT cutie, claim it. I would like to congratulate our March 2024 LET passers. Congratulations teachers, your sleepless nights and dedication were paid off. The next video will appear on screen, click it to watch, or you may choose the playlist for more related videos.